And with everything else that's going on, maybe occasionally we start enjoying the game drives and soon the walk and all the chats and what we're doing at the moment more and more. But ultimately, a warthol in the middle of a beautiful wild place in Africa will always be fascinating. There will always be things coming and going from it. And I think the point I'm just trying to make is that the very essence, the very premise, at the very core of what we're doing ultimately is still just wildlife. What is going on, what is happening, and seeing it as it happens, not putting special effects into it and cutting the whole story, but just sharing it as it happens, and that is very special. So apart from the fact that I'm talking too much, it is a very interesting space this for me, more than I thought it would be. I must say, when we were running a few minutes late, we started the chat a few minutes late, we were still running around with a few things. I wanted to see what happens with it, something that I obviously knew would be interesting. But sitting here now and feeling this communication that we have, and I haven't even read the last few things, so if I've missed out on a few comments, apologies for that. It is something that's very cool to be able to sit here and keep in mind that at the moment me and you are not experiencing this very differently. You are sitting around a table somewhere with a computer screen and things around you, to the point where you eventually forget that they exist, and you're just in that moment. You're just looking at that water buck or that impala waiting for a chance to drink. And I'm doing the same. At the moment I'm looking at that water buck and impala the exact same way as you are, and we're talking about the exact same experience. And it is very real for me, so therefore it must be for you. It's not even that you have to imagine it. It is. The other thing that's going to be interesting with the chats, especially when more and more people join us, and for those of you that maybe are new to Wild Earth, it is a very real experience. I get the sense of people talking with me and I with them, and it's just a conversation. So over time I'm sure there'll be a few funny comments. Just see there's someone asking someone else to stop hitting on me. It's never something that's bad. It's always nice to be flirting a little bit as well. So even those things, as they come along, I'm sure down the line there'll be a few shocks. I know that back in the day Graham had a couple of shocks he had to deal with Alive and Wild. But again, I think maybe one of the things I want to chat about a little bit this morning, because this is sort of adding into it for me, is that habituation level. Now, one of the reasons that wildlife specifically here at Djuma and in Sabi Sands is so phenomenal is the level of habituation. In other words, the fact that we can go around with a vehicle with a person sitting on the back with a camera and a bunch of equipment on it that makes a little bit of noise, and we can drive around close to them and not only see them close up, but see them behave naturally. In other words, see them hunting or mating or sleeping or eating or walking away from the warthol or coming down for a drink or flying away if it's like the grey lories earlier. It's just seeing natural behavior, whether it's a warthol camera like this or whether it's from the vehicle. So the level of the animal habituation is very important, so that we can experience more and more natural behavior, and that we can feel less like we're interfering and feel more like we're sharing in that experience. Lovely scene here, the water buck, the impala. See, sometimes even I get confused. Just kidding. But that was the opening to my point I'm trying to make, is that what I've experienced, certainly to a large extent, and everyone around Wild Earth more and more, is that just like the animals are getting habituated to vehicles, I'm becoming more and more habituated to the camera. In other words, I'm becoming habituated to the fact that we can have a conversation at this moment, that it can be real, that it is real, and therefore I'm quite keen to see what happens with it. And just to come back, so even to say that if a couple of those shock questions come along, or maybe someone ever does something that's a bit funny, I've got no worries about it personally, but even more so, and this is a big part for me, because like I said earlier, and I'm getting more and more used to living in this environment, because I spend a lot of my time living where we are right now. I've become even more comfortable in it, because I know that I can trust you guys, everyone here, all the names I can see here at the moment on the chat, all the people that are sending in questions during drives, that are communicating with each other on all the different forums and chats, and in all the different ways that we as a world are coming closer to each other on a social, personal level. I have a great sense of trust in all of you as well. And that means a lot. It means that if someone came along that was being a bit funny or weird, or something happened that was negative towards Wild Earth, or specifically towards me, I'm not even worried about it, because I know that I've got a whole lot of friends that understand this world, this one that I'm sitting in at the moment, that we're talking in at the moment, that we're having a conversation in, that understand this world really well. And that goes from Graham all the way through to you sitting here with us. And that gives me a great deal of sense and trust. The same as the leopard has a great sense of trust in humans, because it's in a safe environment, it's a natural world where there is no hunting and poaching and people aren't chasing them around, and more those animals relax and you can see more and more natural behavior. Keep in mind that because I trust you, I'm becoming more and more habituated to the camera, where I can be silly, where sometimes I might do this a little bit and just experiment with how it all works, and just explore the space, because ultimately, why shouldn't we? It's a fun and a beautiful place. And I'm rambling too much, but that's just because, like I said, I've got so much to say. It's a whole new experience, this. Where are we now? Certainly the closeness that we experience with animals is fantastic. Just see you guys chatting with each other, and that was a little bit my fault, so I started rambling there. I think let's just, for the sake of it, see if we can get a few questions about things that we're looking at the moment. Those waterbuck, as you can see, all standing in the shade there. Obviously the day is getting hot. Luckily we've got some shade here as well. Oh, look at that, guys. You're going to see this in a split second. One of my favorite animals coming in, and this is the benefit. I can see into the control room to the other camera. It's going to show you very shortly. I'm even going to disappear out of the screen. Look at this. It really is one of my favorite animals. Beautiful kudu bull, impala walking past in the foreground. But just the whole way this kudu approach the water, they are such stately, regal animals. Look around, they carry those horns high, and it's just a stunning antelope. I mention it often, but ever since I was a little boy, seeing big kudu bulls like this always just left me with a sense of awe. Ah, that's beautiful. It's okay. It's just moving me around a little bit. I'll just hold on. Guys, but just look at that. Karen, maybe the waterbuck were looking at that kudu approaching. And a warthog. Maybe quite the opposite of a kudu. Doesn't have that royal regal look to it, but as endearing and as beautiful. Fantastic animals. I'm quite keen to see this warthog. If we're lucky, maybe it has a bit of a wallow in the mud. Ah, that's kudu. This is a spectacular male as well. Quite a bit of chatting going on. I'm just trying to keep up with how fast it's going. But just a quick question there about kudus. If they lose their horns, they don't, unless they break them in a fight or something. All your antelope in Africa, actually, that's one of the things that sort of makes a difference, if you want, between look at that, between antelope and deer typically, is that all your antelope have got permanent horns. So it's a very different structure. It's not just the bone growth, it's actually a bone growth along from the skull, but then a keratin layer, like a fingernail layer if you want, which makes the sheath of the horn. And a bull like this, I would guess this guy probably 6 years old or so, 6, 7 years old. Even just looking at those horn tips, they get better at pointing. Almost like I wish I could stick my arm out of the screen, then I can just go all the way through until I'm pointing onto the horns. But you see those horn tips, they're still a little bit white. Right at the tips you can just see the sort of white growth points. That shows you those horns are still growing. And I'd say this bull, if he survives another 2 years or 3 years, will be truly magnificent. He's got a very nice set of horns. Just out of interest as well, I see there's a few comments about the horns itself. If you were able to look down those horns, so if you've got the spiral, let me try and create a spiral. Got something like that. If the horn spiraled like that, and the kudu looked straight through it, you would have a spiral running like that, and his eye would be able to see through the horn. And I didn't explain that well at all. But if you could look in from the tip of that horn, you can obviously, from the shape of that spiral, it would create a little hole, if you want, or a little tunnel running through the center of that horn spiral. And you can always see the kudu's eye from that. The kudu disappearing there. And the waterbuck, also a little bit of action around the water. What's going on? Something is happening. Waterbuck trotting off. All those waterbuck looking back as well. 11:15. I was going to guess maybe humans, maybe guys going on a walk or something. Let's see. Something certainly grabbed their attention. Yeah, there we go. People going on a walk.